I never thought a simple conversation about fashion could spiral into something that would completely redefine my life. My name is Ryan, and until recently, I had lived a fairly ordinary existence: college student, part-time barista, roommate to the ever-bold and unpredictable Claire. Life was predictable in a comfortable way, punctuated by late-night study sessions, casual outings with friends, and the occasional coffee disaster at work. But all that changed the moment I agreed, in what I thought was a harmless jest, to Claire's seemingly outrageous bet. Claire had always been the type of person who thrived on challenges, pushing boundaries just to see the reactions they elicited. She had an infectious confidence, the kind that made people either admire her or retreat in nervous awe. She was tall, curvy, with a cascade of chestnut hair that framed a mischievous smile I'd grown familiar with during our months as roommates. We had an easy rapport, often teasing one another, but I never imagined she would manipulate that familiarity into something that would fundamentally challenge my comfort zone. It all started one Thursday evening, the kind of night where the apartment felt unusually still, the air thick with the anticipation of the weekend. I had just returned from work, dragging a backpack heavy with notes, my shirt crumpled from the day's labor, my shoes scuffed from running late. Claire was sprawled on the couch, laptop balanced on her knees, scrolling through what I assumed was social media, though she insisted it was fashion research. "You know," she said without looking up, "you've got legs that could carry a skirt better than most girls I know." I laughed nervously, brushing off the comment. Thanks, I guess." Claire finally looked up, her eyes sparkling with a combination of humor and something more calculated. "No, seriously. I bet you've never even tried. But I think I can make you wear a skirt. And not just once. A whole week." I choked on a sip of water, coughing as my brain tried to process what she had just said. "A week? Skirts? For me? You're joking, right?" She shook her head, setting her laptop aside. "I'm dead serious. A week. Every day. And if you fail, well, I'll figure out something suitably embarrassing for the loser." I wanted to argue, to resist, to insist that it was absurd. But there was something in her gaze, a playful challenge, a spark of daring, that made my resistance waver. Before I could fully articulate my refusal, I found myself saying, almost foolishly, "Fine, I'll do it." Claire's grin widened, stretching across her face with the satisfaction of a general claiming victory. "Oh, this is going to be so much fun." That was the beginning of what I would soon call my week in skirts, a week that would test my limits, reshape my sense of self, and expose a side of me I had never dared explore. At first, it seemed like just a quirky, temporary dare, a game between roommates, but the layers beneath it were far more complex. There was a thrill in the idea of stepping out of my usual clothing, in exploring how different fabrics felt against my skin, in the subtle sway of a hemline with every step. And yet, there was also a deep, gnawing anxiety. What would people think? What would Emma say? Emma. I had been seeing her for just under a year. She was patient, kind, and endlessly supportive, or so I believed. Our relationship was rooted in understanding and mutual respect, and I had never shared with her my occasional fascination with feminine clothing, the small thrill of wearing softer fabrics or experimenting with subtle makeup when I was alone. Emma thought of me as steady, predictable, reliable. Would she ever understand this part of me? Or would she see it as a betrayal of the person she thought she knew? The apartment felt smaller that night as Claire began outlining the rules. 7 days. Every day, a different skirt. Your choice, my supervision. No excuses. Her tone was light, teasing, but underneath it I could sense an undercurrent of expectation. I nodded, unsure if I was agreeing to a harmless challenge or signing up for something that would fundamentally alter the way I saw myself. The first skirt I chose was a simple navy pleated number Claire had suggested from a thrift store haul. I slipped it on hesitantly, feeling the fabric brush against my thighs in a way that was both unfamiliar and oddly exhilarating. The mirror reflected a version of me I barely recognized. Alex, the everyday guy, was replaced by someone softer, more delicate in appearance. I caught a glimpse of myself adjusting the waistband, and a shiver of anticipation ran through me. Claire clapped her hands, breaking my introspection. There. Not bad at all. You might even pull this off in public. Her voice was teasing, but there was approval in her tone. I wasn't sure whether to feel proud or mortified. Over dinner that night, as we talked about mundane things, class schedules, assignments, work, I was acutely aware of the skirt, the new sensation of sitting and moving differently, the subtle sway of fabric that had never been part of my daily routine. Emma called later, and I found myself hesitating to describe the day, unsure if I could reveal the secret of my challenge. I spoke in vague terms, careful not to hint at the skirts, but my mind kept drifting back to the mirror, to the way I looked, to the strange, thrilling sense of discovery that I had never anticipated. By the end of that first night, I realized that what Claire had intended as a playful challenge was morphing into something far more personal. It wasn't just about skirts, or dares, or embarrassment. It was about confronting hidden parts of myself, about exploring boundaries I had never dared to approach. And as I lay in bed, the soft fabric still lingering on my skin, I couldn't help but wonder, what would the rest of the week bring? Would Emma notice? Would she understand? And most importantly, would I survive the week without completely unraveling under the weight of exposure, self-doubt, and the thrilling, terrifying excitement of a secret life suddenly illuminated by a simple bet? Little did I know, that first night was just the calm before a storm, a week filled with transformations, emotional twists, and suspense that would challenge my identity, my courage, and my relationship with everyone around me. What began as a joke, a challenge, a mere test of composure, was about to evolve into a full-blown journey of self-discovery, secrecy, and the intoxicating, sometimes perilous thrill of life in skirts. The first morning after Claire's challenge began was a strange mixture of excitement and dread. I woke to the soft sunlight filtering through the blinds, casting thin lines across my bedroom floor. The navy skirt I had worn the previous night was folded neatly on the chair beside my bed, and I could feel the subtle thrill of anticipation as I imagined slipping into a new outfit for the day. Claire had made it clear that the challenge wasn't limited to our apartment. If you're going to survive this week, Ryan, she had said with a smirk, you're going to need to wear these skirts outside. Public places. The world needs to see this transformation. The thought alone made my stomach twist. I was used to the anonymity of my daily life, the comfort of blending in at work, the familiar faces at campus, but now the challenge demanded exposure. Not overt exposure, perhaps, but even stepping out in a skirt felt like walking on a tightrope suspended over judgment, curiosity, and the possibility of discovery. I had chosen a light gray pleated skirt for day 2, something that struck a balance between subtlety and style. As I dressed, I felt the fabric hug my thighs differently than my usual jeans or sweatpants. The sensation was alien, yet oddly comforting. My fingers trembled slightly as I smoothed the pleats, adjusting the waistband to sit just right. Claire had left early for a morning class, but her words echoed in my mind. Own it, Ryan. Confidence sells it more than the fabric ever could. Confidence. A simple word, yet I realized I lacked it entirely in this new identity. My mirror reflected someone tentative, someone testing the limits of a persona I had never fully inhabited. I tried a light layer of makeup, just a touch of concealer to even out my skin and a dab of lip balm, and felt my nerves spike. Even this small act of self-expression felt monumental. Leaving the apartment, I walked carefully, each step a negotiation between comfort and awareness. The skirt swayed slightly, brushing against my legs, reminding me with every movement that I was navigating a delicate, uncharted territory. On the street, I noticed the subtle glances from passers-by, some curious, some indifferent. My heart raced. Was anyone staring? Could they tell? My pulse quickened, a cocktail of fear and excitement that I had never experienced before. By the third day, I began to notice changes beyond the physical. Wearing skirts, adjusting my posture, and experimenting with subtle makeup awakened something in me, a side that had been dormant, tucked away under layers of routine, habit, and fear. There was a quiet thrill in feeling the fabric against my legs, in the way a pleated hemline could sway with a simple step, in the softness of a blouse I paired with a skirt. Each item became a prop in the daily performance of a secret self, a reflection of desires I had long buried. Internal struggles grew as the week progressed. At first, it had been simple. With a skirt, follow Claire's rules, endure a day of subtle anxiety. But soon, each day became an exercise in restraint, imagination, and careful calculation. Emma was always on my mind. We had dinner together on Tuesday night, and I found myself hyper-aware of every gesture, every movement, every subtle hint that might reveal my secret. I laughed a little too loudly, shifted in my chair more than usual, and found excuses to leave early. The skirts weren't just clothing. They were a barrier, a mask, a challenge to everything I thought I knew about myself and my relationship. Claire's interventions were relentless, yet teasing. She left little notes, reminders, and even small gifts: a pair of black high heels, a delicate necklace, a selection of skirts she claimed would bring out my inner confidence. Each item heightened both the excitement and the vulnerability I felt. Wearing heels for the first time outside the apartment was an ordeal. The clicking of the heels on the tile floor made me acutely aware of every step, every sway of my hips, every subtle balance I had to maintain. But it also unleashed a newfound presence. People noticed me differently, not just as Ryan, the reserved college student, but as someone who had embraced a completely different facet of their identity. There were suspenseful moments, too. One afternoon, as I returned from a trip to the nearby cafe, I realized I had forgotten my wallet in the apartment. Panic surged through me. Emma had mentioned she might drop by unannounced, and I could already imagine the conversation, the shock in her eyes, the questions, the possible misunderstanding. My heart pounded as I weighed my options. Should I dash back, risking being caught in the act of adjusting a skirt or practicing posture in a mirror? Or should I try to sneak past unnoticed, blending into the crowd as best I could? The tension was exhilarating, terrifying, and completely consuming. By midweek, my transformation went beyond clothes. I began experimenting with gestures, posture, and voice. Walking with a slight sway, adjusting my hands to appear more delicate, even softening my tone when speaking, these subtle shifts became part of my daily routine. I was discovering nuances of femininity I had never thought about, but each discovery came with a mix of liberation and fear. The liberation was intoxicating, the fear palpable. What if someone saw? What if Emma noticed something different in me? Claire, of course, thrived on every moment of my internal struggle. She would text little challenges, send me a selfie from class, or walk past the bookstore and describe your outfit. Each request was a tiny gauntlet, forcing me to push my boundaries while maintaining composure. I became a master of subtlety, hiding excitement behind an exterior of normalcy, masking nerves with carefully timed smiles. The skirts were no longer just clothing. They were instruments of self-exploration and suspense, each day a delicate balance between exposure and concealment. Even small props became symbolic. A fallen heel on the sidewalk could send me into a panic. A misaligned hairband could threaten my carefully curated appearance. A slip of blush on my cheek could become a test of composure. Each day, these micro-incidents reinforced the duality of my life. Ryan, the ordinary college student, and the secret persona I was cultivating under Claire's relentless guidance. And yet, beneath the suspense and transformation, there was a subtle joy. I began to notice how empowering it felt to claim this secret side of myself, to explore a part of my identity I had never dared to express publicly. The skirts, the heels, the gestures, they were more than a challenge. They were revelations, unlocking emotions and sensations I had previously ignored. Each day brought a mixture of vulnerability, courage, and exhilaration that was as frightening as it was liberating. By the end of the week, I found myself standing in front of the mirror for longer than usual. The skirt, the blouse, the heels, all perfectly arranged, reflected a version of me that felt both strange and undeniably authentic. Claire's challenge had started as a playful bet, but it had evolved into a journey of self-discovery, exploration, and suspenseful thrills. I realized that the biggest challenge wasn't the skirts themselves, it was navigating the fragile line between exposure and concealment, between fear and exhilaration, between who I had been and who I was becoming. The week was far from over, and with each passing day, the stakes grew higher. Emma's potential discovery, the public's subtle observations, and my own internal struggles created a tension that was almost unbearable. Yet, I could not deny the thrill of living this secret life, of stepping into heels and skirts, of walking a path that was both terrifying and intoxicating. And as the weekend approached, I knew the climax of this challenge, the ultimate test of composure, identity, and courage, was just around the corner. By Saturday, the challenge had reached a tipping point. I had survived nearly a full week in skirts, heels, and carefully curated outfits, but the tension had only increased. Claire's playful encouragement had evolved into relentless testing. She now wanted me to navigate social spaces in my full cross-dressing persona, without any safety net. The thought alone made my heart pound. The morning began with a text from Claire. Downtown. Cafes, shops, and a small party tonight. No excuses. Show me you can own it. Downtown was a different world, a place where anonymity was thin, where glances lingered longer, and where any misstep could expose me. I stared at my wardrobe, fingers trembling as I weighed the options. Each skirt had become more than fabric. They were statements, instruments of identity, and sources of suspense. Finally, I settled on a knee-length black skirt paired with a soft lavender blouse. The combination was elegant but understated, allowing me to blend in while still embracing the persona I had cultivated all week. As I slipped into the outfit, I noticed a subtle shift in myself. My movements were more deliberate, my posture more poised. The fabric of the skirt clung to me differently, reminding me with every step that I was both vulnerable and confident, exposed yet in control. I applied makeup with a precision I had never attempted before, each brushstroke reinforcing the transformation. A quick glance in the mirror revealed someone I barely recognized, a version of myself that felt powerful yet fragile, exhilarated yet anxious. Walking downtown was a trial by fire. Every step on the cobblestone sidewalks reminded me of my vulnerability. Pedestrians passed, some glancing with curiosity, some completely indifferent. My pulse raced with each whisper of fabric, each subtle sway of my hips. I felt like a tightrope walker suspended between exposure and concealment, each moment a delicate balance of grace and fear. The first close call came at a small cafe. I had chosen a quiet corner to enjoy a coffee, trying to calm my racing heart. As I reached for my cup, I noticed a familiar figure approaching, the barista from my usual coffee spot, someone who knew me as Ryan, the quiet, jeans and hoodie type. My heart lurched. Should I run, hide, or maintain composure? I took a deep breath and smiled, introducing myself in a slightly softer tone than usual. The barista blinked, curiosity flickering across their face, but said nothing, returning to their duties. Relief and exhilaration collided in my chest. I had survived, but barely. Claire's texts continued throughout the day, each one a new challenge. Post a story from the boutique. Make it look natural. Ask for directions to the bookstore in your persona. I followed each instruction, feeling my nerves tighten and my confidence swell with every successful interaction. The skirts had become extensions of myself, yet each step outside the apartment reminded me how fragile this identity could be. The evening brought the ultimate test, a small party organized by Claire's friends. The apartment was buzzing with activity, music, laughter, and the unmistakable energy of social engagement. I felt my anxiety spike. These were strangers, but strangers with sharp eyes, ready to notice the smallest detail. Claire appeared first, a mischievous grin on her face, holding a delicate necklace and a pair of earrings. For the final touch, she said, "Own it, Ryan. Tonight, everyone sees you." I hesitated, but the transformation was almost complete. The skirt, blouse, heels, and accessories created a persona that felt authentic, yet the anxiety clung to me. Entering the party, I felt every glance, every subtle shift in attention. Friends of Claire's lingered near the door, chatting casually, but I could sense their curiosity. My pulse raced with the thrill of exposure, the tension of concealment, and the intoxicating power of living this secret side of myself fully. The first interaction was a surprise. One of Claire's friends, a striking woman with sharp eyes and an easy smile, approached me. "I love your outfit," she said, eyes flicking briefly to my heels and the subtle sway of my skirt. My heart jumped. Compliment or critique? I forced a polite smile, murmuring thanks, my voice slightly higher than usual. She smiled again, seemingly satisfied, and moved on, leaving me with a mix of relief and adrenaline. The real tension came when someone commented on my posture. "You walk like you know exactly who you are," they said, a teasing lilt in their voice. I felt a jolt. Was it admiration or mockery? My mind raced, analyzing every possible intention. I straightened, holding my head high, letting the skirt sway gracefully, my hands delicate at my sides. The applause of subtle acknowledgments surged through me. Claire's challenge was working. I was transforming externally and internally, yet suspense lingered. Halfway through the evening, I noticed a shadow in the hallway, a figure I recognized immediately. Emma. She hadn't planned to attend, and my stomach plummeted. She paused near the doorway, her eyes scanning the room, landing on me. My heart froze. Could she recognize me? Would she question the skirt, the blouse, the subtle makeup? Panic and excitement collided, threatening to overwhelm me. I tried to remain calm, blending into a small group of Claire's friends. Every movement felt exaggerated, every gesture deliberate. I smiled, laughed, and shifted conversations with careful precision. Emma lingered nearby, her gaze flicking repeatedly in my direction, suspicion flickering in her eyes. Each glance was a dagger, each second stretching into an eternity. Then disaster, or what felt like it, struck. My heel caught the edge of the carpet as I moved toward the kitchen, sending me stumbling slightly. The skirt swirled around me, a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability. I froze, heart pounding, praying no one noticed. Emma's eyes widened slightly, her attention now fully on me. Claire appeared at my side, whispering, "Own it. Act natural." Taking a deep breath, I straightened, feeling the power of the persona I had cultivated all week. The skirt, the heels, the gestures, they were no longer mere fabric and accessories. They were armor, tools of identity, instruments of transformation. I smiled, adjusted the hem, and stepped forward with deliberate grace, reclaiming control over the moment. Emma approached, curiosity mingled with concern. "Ryan," she said, voice tentative. The room seemed to shrink, the music fading into a tense hum. I met her eyes, heart racing, unsure of how much to reveal, how much to conceal. For a heartbeat, time froze. The suspense, the vulnerability, the thrill of exposure all colliding in a single moment. Then Claire, ever the instigator, leaned in with a sly smile. "See? You've owned it all week. You can do this," she whispered. Her words were both a reassurance and a challenge. I felt a surge of courage, the culmination of days spent navigating fear, excitement, and transformation. I straightened, smiled warmly, and spoke in a calm, confident tone. "Yes, Emma. It's me, and I'm exploring something new." The words hung in the air, loaded with tension, curiosity, and anticipation. Emma blinked, her expression unreadable, as the room held its breath. In that moment, I realized the truth of Claire's challenge. It wasn't just the skirts, the heels, or the poses. It was the mastery of duality, the courage to face exposure, the thrill of transformation. The suspense wasn't external. It was woven into every heartbeat, every glance, every interaction. I was living on the edge of revelation, balancing vulnerability with empowerment, and for the first time, I felt fully alive in this secret life I had created. As the evening stretched on, The tension didn't abate. Every laugh, every sip of wine, every glance carried the potential for discovery. Yet I had transformed, not just externally but internally, embracing a part of myself I had long ignored. The skirts, the heels, the gestures, they were no longer challenges imposed by Claire. They were extensions of identity, expressions of courage, and instruments of suspense. But the climax wasn't over. As the party wound down and Emma lingered near the doorway, a sudden knock at the apartment door made everyone jump. The sound reverberated through the room, a stark reminder that suspense was never fully gone, that the world outside, and Emma's perception, remained unpredictable. The knock was deliberate, urgent. Claire's friends exchanged curious glances. I felt my pulse spike. Who could it be? What if it was someone who would shatter the delicate balance I had achieved? Every step, every gesture, every detail now mattered more than ever. The room seemed to hold its breath, the music fading, as the suspense reached its zenith. The knock at the door echoed again, louder this time. Everyone in the apartment froze, mid-laughter, mid-conversation, as if even the air had paused. My heart hammered in my chest, a wild drumbeat of panic and exhilaration. Claire's mischievous grin faltered for just a moment, but she quickly recovered, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Go check," she whispered, a sly sparkle in her eye. I swallowed hard, every muscle tense, and approached the door. My heels clicked sharply against the floor, each sound amplified in my ears. My skirt swayed with every step, reminding me just how exposed I was, not just physically, but emotionally. Peeking through the peephole, I caught a glimpse of a figure silhouetted in the hallway. My stomach twisted. It was someone I didn't recognize, yet there was something unnervingly familiar about their posture. I backed up slightly, my mind racing. Should I open it? Or should I let Claire handle it? "Open it, Ryan," Claire urged, her voice low but firm. There was no escaping it. The moment of truth had arrived. I turned the handle slowly, bracing myself. The door creaked open, revealing
Emma.
Her eyes widened instantly as they landed on me. I froze, caught in the act, skirt swaying gently, blouse soft against my skin, makeup subtle but undeniable. Time seemed to stop. I could feel every heartbeat echoing in my ears. "Ryan, what is this?" Her voice was calm, but beneath it was a storm of confusion, curiosity, and something I couldn't quite name. I swallowed hard, searching for words. My mind raced with possibilities, rehearsed explanations, but none felt adequate. "Emma?" I trailed off, my confidence wavering. Claire stepped up beside me, a small, supportive nudge. "It's okay. He's exploring something. Something important." Her words were calm, yet carried a weight of encouragement. Emma's gaze shifted between Claire and me. Her brow furrowed, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips, but her eyes remained sharp, analytical. "Exploring what exactly?" she asked, voice steady, but her curiosity was palpable. I took a deep breath, feeling the full extent of my transformation. Not just the clothes, the heels, the makeup, but the courage it had taken to be here, fully myself, fully visible. It's me. A side of me I've been afraid to show. But tonight I needed to face it, to embrace it. Emma blinked, a mix of surprise and intrigue crossing her face. She stepped closer, tilting her head slightly, as if trying to measure whether this revelation was playful, experimental, or something deeper. My heart raced, unsure if she would react with judgment, laughter, or acceptance. Before she could respond, another sound interrupted the moment, a soft giggle from the living room. Claire's friends were watching, their eyes wide with anticipation, clearly aware of the unfolding drama. The tension in the room thickened, each second stretching endlessly. Emma's gaze softened slightly, but there was still a question lingering in her eyes. How serious was this? How permanent? And most importantly, how much of this persona was she witnessing now? I swallowed again, the heels suddenly feeling heavier, my hands trembling slightly. I wanted to see if I could live this side of me, even if just for a week. And Claire pushed me. But now, I'm not sure what comes next. Emma said nothing at first, just observing, her expression unreadable. Then she took a step closer, eyes meeting mine directly. So, all this week, this was you? Really you? I nodded, the weight of my secret now fully shared, the suspense tangible in the air. The room felt frozen, every onlooker waiting for her reaction. Her lips curved into a small, enigmatic smile. Interesting, she said softly. But instead of the immediate judgment I had feared, there was a flicker of intrigue, maybe even admiration. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, a notification from Claire, teasing me even now. Don't screw it up. Eyes on you. Always. My pulse spiked again. The moment was delicate, electrifying, and unresolved. Emma's gaze shifted briefly toward the living room, then back to me. I don't know what to say, but I want to understand. You'll have to tell me everything. Her tone was calm, yet the unspoken tension lingered like a charged wire between us. The knock at the door came again. This time, it wasn't just a single knock. It was a rhythmic, deliberate tapping, a sound that shattered the fragile calm in the apartment. Everyone turned toward the door, anticipation and anxiety merging into one collective heartbeat. I glanced at Emma. Her eyes widened again, a mixture of curiosity and caution. Claire smirked knowingly, clearly enjoying the suspense. My hands tightened into fists, gripping the skirt lightly, feeling the fabric slip through my fingers. Every instinct screamed both excitement and fear. The suspense was unbearable. Who could it be? Another friend? A neighbor? Someone who might expose me? Or worse, someone who might challenge everything I had just begun to reveal to Emma? I stepped toward the door, every movement deliberate. My heels clicked sharply against the floor, echoing in the silent room. The world outside seemed to hold its breath. As I reached the handle, Emma's voice cut through the tension. Be careful, whatever happens next, it changes everything. I nodded, fingers trembling slightly, and turned the handle. And then, the story ends there, leaving the audience on the edge. A knock, a revelation, and uncertainty. Did Emma fully accept me? Who is at the door? Will my secret life continue safely, or is exposure imminent?